What's going on, everybody? My name is Trey, and I want to welcome you all to the first episode of the LunchTrey Talks podcast. Now on this podcast, I'll be talking about a range of things. So it could go from sports to fashion, music, culture, life, anything that really pops in my head and anything you guys want to talk about. So today, I really want to kick it off with something that's been really recent, especially within the sports worlds, and that's college basketball. So college basketball kicked off about a month ago, and it's already been a lot of changes. I mean, college basketball is just that type of sport. My sports bettors know and sports fans know college basketball is extremely unpredictable at any time in the season. And I know some of us are still reeling from not being able to have March Madness last year, but we're back and working with what we have within the light of COVID and programs having to take games off, cancel games, conference games being played back to back. I mean, this is a season like no other, right? So in college basketball, one of the things that's known is you can start out in that AP top 25 and find yourself in NIT at the end of the season. And well, that might be the case for Kentucky. Kentucky was the preseason number 10 team in the nation. I believe they had one of the top recruiting classes coming in for freshmen, and everyone was talking about them. You know, they got BJ Boston, Terrence Clark, some other really good guys, and they won their first game against Morehead State in convincing fashion. It was 45-81, and then ever since then, they haven't been able to get a dub. So they're on a 6-game losing streak, and only 2 of those opponents were in the preseason top 25 rankings. So that's got to be a little disheartening for Kentucky, right? You guys came in at number 10. You guys had all the eyes on you, and now, 6-game losing streak. What do you do? How do you bounce back? I mean, frankly, you've basically hit rock bottom, so only way you could go is up unless you keep losing. So it just concerns me a little bit because their schedule doesn't get too much easier, right? They play Mississippi State and Vanderbilt within their next 2 opponents, and Vanderbilt has a hot Scottie Pippen Jr. who's been on fire lately. I believe he had a 30-point performance recently, and he's averaging 23 points, 4 assists, while shooting 46% from the field and 43% from 3. Bro is balling right now, so you really got a game plan for him. And then, I think that this will be really a test to John Calipari's coaching ability, right? You're on a 6-game losing streak with freshmen. How do you bounce back, right? Kentucky's been real shaky the past couple of years, trying to move on, especially throughout the end of the season through the SEC tournament and March Madness, because their teams are getting stumped, going down the road to older teams. And that's why I think it's tough for one-and-done programs to really be able to prosper consistently when you have teams on the horizon such as Villanova and Gonzaga and these other programs where they breed players. They kind of put them in a slow cooker. So this kid may not play during his freshman year too much, but as his sophomore and junior year rises around, they start getting good. And, these guys get recruits in too. So, it's just a slow factory, but they're always producing teams and always staying within the top 25. So I think this will show whether John Calipari is really capable of being in that caliber of like, hey, I'm really good at coaching right now, like amongst all the things that are going on and all these freshmen that I'm always getting, I'm able to coach still. Because it's tough to be able to have to take a new team every year, frankly, because Kentucky is known for getting freshmen in, getting them out, getting freshmen in, getting them out. So I just really want to see how Calipari is going to be able to handle this, because he hasn't made a March Madness championship appearance since 2014. And his last win was in 2012. So it might be due for Calipari to win something, but we're going to see how he handles that. Now, touching back on how I said these older teams are really able to produce players and it's hard to compete with programs like Villanova and Gonzaga, let's talk about Gonzaga, right? Number 1 in the nation preseason, and in week 6, guess where they're still at? the top. I just think they're too good. Gonzaga is 8-0 heading into conference play, and compared to their out-of-conference schedule, where they have to play other ranked opponents and tough teams, their conference play is frankly a cakewalk. I mean, conference play in college basketball is always going to be tough, but with Gonzaga getting dubs against Iowa, West Virginia, Kansas, and Virginia on their way, early season, I don't think they're going to stop rolling, You start off the season hot, beating 4 other ranked opponents, and now you go into conference play where the opponents are unranked, but you still must respect them, because at the end of the day, it's D1 basketball. Anybody can lose to anybody, right? There's not too much separating some players in D1, D2, and D3. It's all about exposure and opportunity. But for Gonzaga, I just think they're too loaded as a team, right? So we got Kispert averaging 20.6 points per game, which is the most on the team. And then he's 61% from the field and 50% from 3. So that's crazy to me, right? You're shooting 50% from 3 and 61% from the field. So not only are you putting up buckets, but you're putting up efficient buckets. And that's the difference between a lot of players. It's hard to find players out there that are putting up points in bunches, but also allowing their team to really maximize their shots by being efficient. Some players are just chuck them up, and one night I'm hot, one night I'm not. But he's pretty consistent throughout 8 games so far. Then Jalen Suggs, a guy who's really impressed me. 15.1 points per game, 5.9 boards, 5.9 assists, 2.6 steals, shooting 55% from the field and 48% from 3. I think that's amazing, right? He's shooting 48% from 3. So if you had any question whether this kid could shoot during the season, it's all dead now. Shooting 55% from the field. Once again, efficiency, right? It may be the system, but these kids are buying into the system and really showing that they're able to perform with this coaching, right? 2.6 steals a game. Now, out of all the stats, that's the most impressive to me. I think Jalen Suggs is amazing because he performs on both sides of the ball. During the Gonzaga and Iowa game, they turned the ball over, and it was a 3-on-none with him trailing, and he was able to get the chase down block. That's hustle, right? That's what separates the top, the good top players from the elite top players, being able to show that you really want to play the game no matter what you have to do. So he was really impressing me with his efficiency on both sides of the ball. And he isn't a huge guy, right? He's about 6'4", 6'3"-ish, but he's getting 6 boards a game. So that shows that he's willing to get into that mix, and he's willing to do whatever he has to do to win, not only by sharing the ball with his 6 assists a game, and then his scoring ability, which everyone knows about. So then you go to Drew Timme, right? Their anchor at big, 20.6 points per game, 7.4 boards while shooting 61% from the field goal. So, right, your 3-headed monster, all of them are shooting above 50%. So not only do you have to worry about them getting shots, but you have to worry about them being able to get good shots, right? So it's a tough game plan for teams, right? How do you stop all 3 of them who are able to produce, and how do you stop their team from performing, right? Because, excuse me if I say his name wrong, but Ayayi, he's averaging 10.4 points and 7.4 rebounds, along with 1.4 steals. So that's another player in their starting lineup putting up efficient stats. 7.4 rebounds at the guard position. So not only as a team do you have to box out their bigs, but you have to box out their guards because they are active everywhere. So I think that's tough. I think that's a test to how good the coaching is over there and how good the culture is, right? Along with the players, obviously, because they have to get out there and perform every night. So let's talk about some team stats for Gonzaga. They're averaging 94.2 points per game, which is 3rd in the nation, along with 40 boards per game, 20 assists, and 55% as a team. Once again, going back to that field goal percentage, it's very hard to shoot that efficient throughout this amount of games. They have played 8 games so far. So it's not like they have had many COVID cancellations. I believe they had about 1 or 2 maybe. But I know it was the Baylor-Gonzaga game, and everyone was kind of bummed out for that because that was the number 1 versus number 2. But, sometimes you don't get to see that. But I think that just shows how good the culture, the players, and how much they really want to win, right? They're shooting 55%, but also almost putting up 100 points per game. That's crazy, right? So they're just running and they're grabbing boards by getting 40 boards per game and they're distributing the ball, 20 assists. It's kind of like they have things down packed at so many areas that it's going to be hard for teams to stop that. So right now, early season, I don't see them not winning a national championship. Coming into the season, I'm like, anybody could be beat. But these guys, they're balling, and I only think they're going to get better as time goes on. They're going to find some more role players and find things that they need. They're going to be put in situations that they need to be put in. So once it comes time for tournament time, hopefully, that they'll be able to know who's their go-to guys in what situations. So now switching conferences, right? As I was talking about Villanova before, I want to talk about the Big East, right? So you got Nova and Creighton at the top of the Big East, right? Those are the two currently ranked teams as of the Week 6 AP Top 25 poll. You got Villanova at 4. You got Creighton at 11. But Creighton had a tough conference game against UConn, where they only won by 2. And I believe UConn is the dark horse for the Big East. I think that James Bouknight is extremely good, right? He had a 40-point performance that game. The guy was going insane, right? Doing whatever he wants. I mean, frankly, if you're scoring 40 points, you get into all your spots. So he has the talent to get to his spots and put up points and, along with his athleticism. And I think that UConn has a really good backcourt that they could build upon throughout the season. They have a backcourt of Bouknight, along with R.J. Cole, who was a Howard transfer. He was a former MEAC Player of the Year. He sat out last year, so this is his first year playing with the Huskies. And they have Jalen Gaffney. He's a guard from Jersey who had a really good high school career, and he did all right for them last year. So I like to see him build upon that. So I think that UConn's backcourt is really going to be able to carry them places because they have so much talent in that backcourt. And then along with that, I think because they played about 4 games as the time of this recording, they're actually playing a game right now. But I think with more games that they play, I think that they'll be able to come together and really understand their strengths as a team. Because when you look at the stats, they're averaging 76 points per game. So they're not necessarily one of the higher powered offenses in college basketball. So I think that with that, they need to look at their stats, watch their film, and I believe that they need to turn it up on defense a little bit more, create some more turnovers, because when you have a good backcourt, you can really rush other teams' guards into making bad decisions. And they have athletic forwards that can go get it, play up on that press and go get a steal and be able to trap and be able to rotate. So I think that they have the team to really be a gritty and a really pesty defensive team, right? Especially to cover up for their 76 points per game. Because that means some nights, if you're not hitting, it's going to be rough. And then on top of them only having 76 points per game, their 3-point percentage as a team is 30.9%. So as a team, they need to be able to shoot the ball from deep better. And they have no individual players shooting 40% or better. I believe Bouknight is their best shooter at 37%. So I would like to see them be able to shoot the ball from deep better. It would give a little more confidence in games where you might have to have a shootout, But I think when we're talking Big East basketball, it's going to come down to whatever team really wants it more and is going to go get it on all ends. So, whether it's on rebounds, whether it's being able to move the ball and get a lot of motion going to get the defense to be mixed up to find open looks, whether it's pressuring the ball, steals, blocks, whatever it has to be, I think that the Big East is one of those conferences where you just got to do whatever you got to do night in and night out to get a win. Because it's a tough conference. You got to play teams such as Marquette, Butler, Xavier, Seton Hall, Creighton, Providence, Villanova. So they have a tough road ahead of them as they have to. I think Marquette is a team they got to worry about because Marquette did, in fact, beat Creighton. But they also ended up taking a loss to Xavier, Villanova, and Seton Hall. So that's that, that's that night in, night out Big East thing that I'm saying. It can go anybody's way. And of course you have to get through Creighton and Villanova because they're the big dogs right now. But I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this conference shapes up going down the road, getting ready for tournament time, who's going to be hot, who's going to be the players to look for. I'm interested to see how Marquette operates long term as they're experiencing their post Marcus Howard era. Same thing with Seton Hall experiencing their post Miles Powell era. So what will these teams do? How will they operate going into tournament time and conference play? So now switching conferences once again, but keeping the same theme. You got your conferences that, are respected. You have your ACC, you have your SEC, you got other conferences such as the A10, Ohio Valley Conference. But I really want to talk about the best conference in college basketball as of right now. So let me read off some numbers to you. 9 of these 14, there's 9 teams in this conference that are ranked currently as of week 6 AP Top 25. There's 14 teams in the conference. So the rankings you have are 25, 21, 19, 17, 15, 14, 10, and 6. So if you're really into college basketball like that, you may know who I'm talking about. And we're talking about the Big Ten. I mean, you can't get no better than that. 9 teams in the top 25. That's insane. For the teams in the Big Ten, that is ridiculous. Night in and night out, you're playing top tier competition every night to solidify your spot in the conference. So it's going to be easy for you to get knocked down in the conference and in the national rankings. So I think that conference has a lot of pressure on teams to perform consistently because just like that, you'll be able to get knocked out of the conference play and get knocked out of AP Top 25. And, once again, shaping up for tournament times. I know we're approaching the mid-season once conference play starts up. So you're going to need to start winning your conference games because it's going to be hard to make that push at the end to be able to increase your seeding and get better positioning going for conference tournaments and then for the national tournament also. Because, most of these teams are probably going to make the national tournament. So it's just a matter of what seed you're getting and are you going to be able to win your conference. So we have the teams that are here ranked are, and this is from lowest to highest. So you have Ohio State 25, Northwestern 19, Michigan State 17, Michigan 16, Illinois 15, Rutgers 14, Iowa 10, Wisconsin 6, and I forgot to mention Minnesota at 21. So night in and night out, it's going to be hard to really play in this conference. And whatever team comes out at the top of this conference, I think that's going to be the most battle-tested team headed into March Madness. And I think that they're going to be able to really shake things up going forward. So, just saying it now, kudos to whoever comes out of this conference because this is a jungle. This is crazy. Trying to get out of a conference with 9 teams that are ranked. And even if teams get knocked in and out, it's still going to be hard because these teams still have the talent and still in conference play are going to be trying to get at you every night just to get back to where they want to be. So lastly, I wanted to switch up from the team aspect and I want to talk about some players, right? So I know it's early in the season, some teams will play 8 games, some teams play 6, 4, whatever amount of games may have been. I just want to talk about some players who give me good vibes, and I'm really excited to see them as a prospect for the NBA, right? NBA just kicked off, and it's going to be a tough season for these rookies. This crop of rookies, because you don't really have a training camp. You don't really have too much of nothing. You kind of just got drafted and now you're playing. Draft and the start of the NBA season was 1 month difference. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But for this upcoming class of rookies, I just want to talk about some players who kind of excite me if I was a scout. So starting off, number 1, I'm going to go to Texas. And we're going to talk about Greg Brown, right? 6'9", 205 with a 6'10 wingspan. He's a freak athlete, right? I don't know how much you all may follow high school basketball, but obviously he was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. Everyone knew, right? He's an athlete. Kid did a East Bay in the game, right? You got to be athletic to do that. But he's averaging 12.5 points so far and 7.5 rebounds. So I think that his size and athleticism is really going to be to his advantage, especially because that's what teams are looking for. Teams are looking for tall, athletic dudes because that gives you versatility, right? Especially because he's able to finish at the rim. And with his arms being so long and him being active, he's going to have that two-way potential, right? So now we might be able to turn some rebounds and points into rebounds, points, and steals or blocks, or just being a pest and being able to cause turnovers and rush guys into decisions that they don't want to make. But I think he has that two-way player potential. But I think what needs to be seen from him is a better three-point percentage, as he's shooting 26% from three. So that's kind of concerning, right? In the NBA, if you can't shoot, it makes it really easy for teams to guard, as they only have to play 4 people on the perimeter. So it's going to be rough for him. I think if he can get that up throughout the college season and then in his pre-draft workouts and things like that, show his ability to shoot. I mean, at least mid-range and 3-point, but, just getting a better shooting stroke would definitely help his draft stock a lot. So then moving on, we're going to stick to another orange team, and we're going to go to Oklahoma State, right? You probably know who I'm talking about already. Cade Cunningham. So, right, deservingly has this hype of being the number 1 pick for this next draft. And I understand it. This guy is huge. He's 6'8", 220 at guard, so he's a bully. You put your 1 guard on him, bully. 2 guard on him, bully. You put a forward on him, he's by him. He has the guard skills. So, I think he's really the full package. So far, he's averaging about 19 points per game, about 5.6 boards, and 3.8 assists. I don't see too much wrong with his game. He's always looking very composed, looking like he does what he wants to do. It doesn't look like guys really put him in positions where he has to make a play that he didn't really intend on. I feel like he gets to his spots. He knows his personnel that's on the court. He gets them in their spots. And he could just flat out take a game over. Just give him the ball and let him go to work. Whether it's creating for somebody else, whether it's creating for himself, whether it's, getting a stop or getting a board and going downhill in transition, he could do it. He plays at his pace. And like I said, he's a big guard. So, it'll be interesting to see how things unfold for the rest of the season with Oklahoma State, see if they could sneak into the top 25 possibly, or see if they could shake things up within the Big 12 conference because of him. But it'll be interesting to see. And now switching over to another guard, touched upon him earlier. Excuse me. I want to talk about Gonzaga and Jalen Suggs, right? So we already talked about Gonzaga. You already know he's extremely efficient. Once again, reading the stats off, he's doing about 15 points, 6 assists, 6 boards, and 2.6 steals, right? And shooting above 50% from the field goal and 48% from 3, right? So the efficiency is there. And when you watch him in the game, as I spoke about earlier, when you watch him play, you see him on both ends of the ball, active the same way he is on offense, the same way he is on defense. So this is a guy who's really committed to both ends of the floor, right? He just wants to get it done however he has to. And his steals speak that, 2.6 steals a game. That means he's in passing lanes, he's reading plays. He's in his position. He's making his correct rotations, right? That's the problem some players have. They can be great on offense, moving without the ball on offense, but then defense comes around and they're kind of lazy on their rotations. They're not really trying to anticipate things. They're not really trying to rush guys into doing things they don't want to do. Guys kind of get to their spot on them. But with Jalen Suggs, he's trying to make sure you don't get to your spot. He's trying to make sure you don't even get the ball. You come off a screen. He's trying to read how can he get around his screen to get that steal. So I think that's really good. I think the best thing about him is he knows his game, right? He knows what he can do. He knows where he needs to go, and he knows what he can do defensively also. I think that one thing that he can improve and one thing that's also might hurt him is the fact that he shoots 63% from the free throw line right now. As a premier guard, you got to get that up, right? The problem with Lonzo Ball at times is that he's a good guard, but you can't keep him in to close the game because he can't shoot free throws. So I would like to see him get that above 70%. I think that would ease a lot of scouts if he was able to show he's close to 80, maybe even close to 80% with the free throws. And something that might hinder him a little bit is his size, right? He's not like one of those guys who's like a measurement freak with all these freak measurements. You know, he's 6'4", 198 with a 6'5" wingspan. So he may at times have difficulty scoring over bigger defenders. It'll be interesting to see how he handles his size going towards the next level when basically everybody in the NBA is athletic and lanky. So it'll be interesting to see how he does there. But, you know, throughout the rest of the season, we'll see how he's able to finish against bigger defenders and how he's able to break them down on the perimeter. And lastly, I want to go to Florida State and talk about Scotty Barnes. So, right, he's played 6 games, and, right, he's 6'9", 227, and he's averaging about 10.7 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 4.2 assists, and 1.7 steals. So, right, this guy really looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks very comfortable on the court, right? He's big, once again, another big guard, 6'9", 227. Cade Cunningham, 6'8", 220. So they're very familiar. They're very similar in frame. But I think the difference with Scotty is his stats aren't too exciting, but I think I would like to see from him, obviously, better shooting, right? He's shooting 41% from the free throw line and 26% from three. Frankly, on both ends, that's very concerning. But once again, only 6 games. He needs to be able to show that he could shoot the ball throughout the rest of the season. And also, I'd like to see a little bit more activity around the rim for his height, as he's only averaging 0.2 blocks and 3.8 rebounds. You know, that's the least rebounds on this list of athletes. And he's the tallest guy, you know, tallest and has the most weight. So I think that you can, if he can get more activity around the rim, that he could be a lot better. Other than that, he's a really composed guy, right? He's a high energy guy with a lot of emotions. Sometimes he may wear his emotions on his sleeve, you know, with body language and things like that. But, you know, that just comes with time and maturity. But I think that he's a really good prospect, right? As 6'9", 227 at guard, I think you can do a lot of things. You can be a good defender. You could be good playmaking, you know, basically the type of Ben Simmons type of guy. I wouldn't say he's as athletic or as a downhill guy like him, but, you know, with the right scouts and the right performance from him throughout the rest of the college season, I think he can do pretty good heading towards the next level. But other than that, I have covered all of my topics for this episode of LunchTrey Talks. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the first episode, and I'm looking forward to making more episodes and really getting feedback on what you guys think and getting some of your topics so I can give my takes on them. And for all my sports heads, you know, it'll be exciting to see how this college basketball season unfolds, see what my takes, you know, how my takes unfold throughout the season, and see, you know, who's really going to start to impress heading down the line towards, you know, tournament time and things like that. But other than that, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for tuning in again, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.